Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. So today we have a treat. Today we have Marnie Cooper, who is with us today. So Marnie is somebody who has lived experiences with hoarding issues, and she's also a trainer for professional kids on acting. And she's a wife, she is a daughter, she's also a mother of a daughter. Yeah, welcome, Marnie. And can I just mention before we start that you have a Facebook page and
Mm-hmm.
page that is called a hoarder come clean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell us more about that resource that you provide there, and why do you call it a hoarder come clean? Because that's not a very nice word, right? For some,
I
for
understand.
all.
Well, firstly, thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here. And you're wonderful. And I loved meeting you not so long ago at the IOCD conference.
Okay.
And I'm grateful to help. Um, I I don't care about the word. It doesn't offend me. I feel like this is what I suffer from. I suffer from a hoarding disorder.
Mm.
Uh, some people don't like being, like you said, called a hoarder because it brings up a lot of images, if you will. I don't mind it. I embrace it today. Years ago, I hated this part of me. And part of the reason why I didn't work on it earlier was because I have a fabulous business teaching, and it it just was like, do I want to teach and love life, or do I want to sit and look at crap? That makes me feel really terrible about myself. So I just ignored it, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. How I decided to really take a leap and change was I was reading Randy Frost's book called Stuff. And I felt like he's the only one in the whole world who gets me. And I kept it, it was like a Bible. I had it in bed with me. I took it on a vacation with me. And in a very, I don't want to say hoarderish way, but in a very compulsive way, I also downloaded it on Audible. So I could listen, I could read. It really became my source. And so I looked at the person who wrote it, and I saw, okay, some guy named Randy Frost. Well, I'm going to call him. And the chances of him answering are slim to none, but I always believe you should go for things and not hold back, get out of your comfort zone. So I called, and he picked up. And I said, "You're Randy?" "Yes, I am." And I started to tell him my story. And I got to tell you, he must listen to so many people, but he listened like he'd never heard the story before.
Mm.
He was so kind,
Mm.
and said, "There's actually a conference in Boston that's coming up, and I think you would benefit from it." I live in Los Angeles. And like I said, I work a lot. And I thought, I can't go to Boston. I'm
Mhm.
not getting on a plane. I'm not taking time off from work. I'll just take a pass. And so I called my father right afterwards, and I said, "Hey, Dad, that guy the man I told you about who wrote the book that I told you about answered the phone, and he said I should go to Boston." And he said, "So why aren't you going?" I said, "Well, I gave excuses. He goes, Marnie, this has haunted you your whole life. Get
Mm.
on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
So
How long
I,
ago was this?
well, I believe it was 7 years ago.
Mm.
And I got to the conference and I felt so supported and loved, and people got me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in heaven. I never wanted to leave the conference because then I had to go to see other people
Mm. Right.
that don't get me, that don't understand, that make jokes, that just are, they don't mean to be. I really don't believe they mean to be, but
Mm-hmm.
laugh and go, oh, you're a hoarder, and yeah, I suffer from a hoarding disorder.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I forgot to say the part about why specifically I called on that day
Ah.
and, and called Randy. The reason why is I had somebody come over who was an organizer,
Oh.
and she was nice on the first day. And
Mm.
on the second day, she got a little chilly and was like, can we get rid of this? And I'm like, no. Can we get rid of this? No. Okay. What about the, and she was building with her frustration.
Mm.
And I was holding on tighter because she was pushing me.
Right.
And she left and she sent me a text and said, I can't work with you. You're a hoarder. And it broke my heart. I
Yeah.
went to a deep depression.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And it was bad.
Right. Right.
And that's when I got the idea to call Randy.
Mm.
That was very important to me
Right.
because that in that way, if somebody goes, you're a hoarder, that's not nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't mind calling my site A Hoarder Comes Clean because that is the truth.
Mm-hmm. I
Although I respect other people who don't want to use that word, I totally get it.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Marnie, for sharing this very beautiful and very moving story of how you started to enter the journey of healing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like what you just shared in the past couple minutes, it's like there's different jewels there. I'm seeing that you relate to this word hoarder or hoarding.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can see that there's been different kind of like evolution in
Yes.
this past 7 years, how you yourself related to this word or this struggle that you had, right?
Mm-hmm.
First, it was like more like put it at the back of my mind, pretend it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter, and
Mm-hmm.
then facing it and also reading the book by Randy to realize, oh my God, somebody gets me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and having a language for that, and that perhaps is what maybe the earliest, the first one of the first steps you started to kind of like wanted to understand the struggle that
Yeah.
because you're encouraged by, oh my God, somebody understands me.
Yes.
And you join this community of people. Like
Mm-hmm.
I really love, like you, I really love the IOCDF conference.
Mm-hmm.
Always like people like of different kind of backgrounds. We have it's like researchers, people with lived experiences like yourself, and advocates like yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
clinicians and different kinds of people. We all come together to want to care about this situation. It's like a community.
It
Yeah.
is. And what I really appreciate about the IOCDF that I've never seen anywhere else is the professionals like yourself don't put themselves on a pedestal
Yeah.
and look down on us. And that I could I could not get over that Randy talked to me about my work And I was like, but don't you know how I live? And he was like, but I want to know other things.
Right.
And it it just was so beautiful that he saw me as a full human being, not just somebody who suffers from this disorder.
Right. You know, when you say what you just said, I have tears in my eyes because I feel like how is this a special thing? This should be the norm.
Hmm.
And yet this is special and it's wrong. It should be the norm.
Hmm. Yes,
Yeah,
because we can learn from each other.
exactly.
And if there's I think that's all I want to say. We can learn from each other. Yes.
Can I add to that? Not
Yes.
I think not only we can learn from each other, is that we need to
Hmm.
learn from each other. And
Hmm.
there's no higher or lower. It's like we are all connected and we are all puzzle pieces of the same puzzle.
Yes.
We
Yes.
need each other.
Yes. I love that. I really love that.
Yeah. So Marnie and I met when we were in the last annual IOCDF conference together. This year was in San Francisco, and
Right.
we're on the same panel. And Marnie was sharing her experiences as someone who has lived experiences of hoarding,
Mhm.
along with other people of like different kind of backgrounds. Like I'm coming as a clinician slash researcher, and somebody else is a psychiatrist, and we have social work background people. And Randy and Gail are also on the panel. Yeah, and so I really fell in love with Marnie and on that panel because I feel like she really put her heart out there. She's like I am here. I'm open to love.
Mhm.
I'm open to just connect and share what I have to share and advocate for people who struggle with the condition. Yeah.
Yes.
So would you tell us I have so many questions for you,
Yeah,
but
good.
I'll just lay two out there right now. So
Mhm.
one, can you tell us, okay, so what happened? And after you went to the conference, how did you start with your healing journey? And are there some like different phases of your healing that you can identify so we can share that kind of like because you've been on this journey for 7 years now,
Mhm.
you kind of have your own roadmap of where
Mhm.
you've been through. So I
Right.
think this would be very valuable for folks who are maybe still contemplating, should I get help? Is it really worth it? Or
Mhm.
like people are early on their stage of healing from this condition. So
Sh-
let's start with this.
Sure. And I just want to also tell people that it doesn't always take 7 years. That number can be really scary. If someone goes, I don't have 7 years to deal with this crap. But the truth is that there was a lot of two-step forward, one step back.
Right.
And I'd get busy with work and I wouldn't do anything for months. I was just like, I'm too busy with work. I can't even look at anything. And I really learned in the conference and through many people that you have to schedule the time to do it, or it's just not going to get better.
Mhm.
So sometimes I get up at 7 a.m. and do the work so that I get it done.
Mm.
Um, I would say that right now, if you came into my home, you would say, oh, she's very creative, very eclectic, right? Like I have a phone booth in my living room.
Mhm.
And I have a like Harry Potter chair because I work with kids,
Mhm.
um, and a fish tank that is an old TV.
Oh.
And so I'm very creative.
Mhm.
Do I have piles? Yes, I still have piles. Does it look like it looked years ago? Not at all. Would somebody come in and say, oh, you're a hoarder? Not at all.
Mm.
They would say, they might say, oh, you're a bit disorganized.
Mm.
But the diagnosis, depending on which room, if they went into my garage, they'd go, oh, girl, you gotta do something about this. But I don't believe that you go to the place with the most stuff. I love that I started small.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many different ways to work. I worked with a private therapist at one point. I had somebody, actually, even before I called Randy, I dabbled in this, but I still kept one foot out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, I have this issue, but I'm okay, And then when I went to Randy, I was like, I'm not okay. I'm really not okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see a therapist. You can also do the Buried in Treasures workshop, which I led once, and it was fabulous. It was really a wonderful experience. I took it and I led it, and both were wonderful. Again, when I led it, what I think people really liked about it was I do suffer from this. So I wasn't saying, now, kids, you need to, it wasn't that at all. It was, I get you. I totally get where you're coming from.
Right.
And I am there as well. Maybe perhaps I have less than some people in the group, but it doesn't take away my brain. My brain still is the same as yours. Somewhat. On that note, my brain has changed, which I love. Because today I can say, oh, that's just a chair. It's not, oh, that was my mother's chair and she sat in it and da, da, da. No, I just, not for everything. I do have some sentimental things. I worked with a fabulous person. Oh my God. She came over and we went through a lot of my clothing. And I did find some pants that were my mom's. And she said, well, do you want to keep it because it was your mother's? I said, no, I have other things that are a lot more beautiful than a pair of pants sitting in my purse, in my closet, taking up space. And that's another thing that Randy really taught me, which was to compare items. So when my mother died, he actually has been in my house. I'm very, very grateful. I don't know how that happened because he's from Boston, and he had a conference not far. And I begged and begged and begged and begged. And we agreed, I know I'm talking, God, there's so much to say, but we had he could not be my therapist because he does not live in Los Angeles.
Right.
And I was like, please, you have to, because I can't. I'm not allowed to. So he said, but what I can do is if you help me understand more about your brain, then I can help you. But I will not be your therapist. Right. So I got a therapist, all was well. And I didn't speak to him every day, but I remember one time I called him in a rage because my husband threw out a Harry Potter broom that my daughter made when she was little. And why he threw it out. He didn't just throw it out to throw it out, but the cat peed on up to the cat. I have dogs now. Cat was here. Let's take that again. So why he threw it out was because one of our dogs peed on the broom. Well, in a, I don't want to say normal because that's not right. In a
More common situation?
more common situation, somebody would go, oh, that's a bummer. Okay, not me. I called Randy and I said, this is grounds for divorce. And he didn't go, now, Marnie, it's not. He was like, okay, let's talk about it. And I was livid. He calmed me down a bit. And then, as always, my stress level went down.
Right.
Always. I mean, that is always, I can always count on it. Right. But when I called him, I was at a 10. We got off the phone, I was probably at a 7.
So he saved your marriage.
Yes, he did. He more than once. I mean, I just really was clear as could be. We needed to get a divorce.
So Marnie, you were sharing that how you were diligently working on it, making time to quote unquote work on it. So I assume when you said that, you're talking about working on the physically letting go of stuff or organizing stuff. But I can see that you are also alluded on the fact of there is not just a behavioral change. Of course, we all know that the behavioral change of being able to go from holding on to everything to letting go of a lot of things, that behavioral change comes from something shifting in your mind, in your heart, right, in your psychology. Can you tell us more about those more like intangible shift or the work or the opportunities that you have had for that shift, those kind of shifts to happen?
Sure. Well, the one big one was when Randy came here and I showed him a letter that my mother wrote before she died, because he came shortly after she died. And I just started crying. And then we went and revisited my mother's garbage can that I could not get rid of. And he, such a gentle voice, said, why don't we compare the two? And I had this epiphany and I was like, I have this beautiful letter. I don't want her garbage can. And so I let it go. And but he did stand by, and that is something that I find really important.
Right.
That you have somebody supporting you.
Right.
Whether it be a friend, Buried in Treasures workshop. It started off that my husband could not help me. He would say, I want to help you. I don't want you spending the money on somebody coming over. And I was like, this is going to be fun. So he would stand there with this big smile, like this fake smile. Everything's fine. I go, not everything is fine. I can see through you and you're judging me, and I can't work with someone who's judging me. So fast forward years later, we work together a lot now.
Wow.
Yeah, because he no longer judges. I think the funny thing was he did not understand how, if I knew what was wrong with me, why couldn't I change right away? Right. Like, I don't get it. I just don't understand what the problem is if you understand that your brain is different. Right. And I would say, I just can't. And then when he spoke with Randy, he was like, now, Randy, what is going on? I don't understand it. And he said, okay, and you're not going to. And that was an epiphany for him, because he said, there is nothing, it doesn't it's not supposed to make sense.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And yet, Dr. Saxena will tell you, if you put my brain and your brain in an MRI, they'll light up differently. Right? So I don't know where I'm going with that. Go ahead, tell me where I'm going.
But I want to highlight again the jewels that you've shared and laid out here. I think so let me just get this out of the way first. So for those of you who are listening, and if you notice we're mentioning buried in treasure and you wonder what that is, it's a CBT, cognitive behavior therapy based group, and it comes from a self-help book called Buried in Treasure. And with the help with the work of both Randy and also Leisure and many other people in the field, they developed this into a paradigm that's like peer-led support group. So if you just Google Buried in Treasure support group, chances are you can find your local Buried in Treasure group. And like Marnie, you can be heard and be understood by like-minded people.
Definitely.
Now,
Definitely.
now back to your story, Marnie. I feel like what I'm hearing that was very crucial for your healing is the unconditional acceptance and unconditional support from
Right.
Randy, right?
Right.
And also from your community who gets you, right?
Yes.
It's that you being understood and being like, yes, okay, and that warm existence, like you said, he stood by you, or talking on the phone with him. It's somebody who stood by you, who's there, non-judgmental, being open and being curious, being accepting unconditionally to whatever you're going through. It doesn't matter whether it makes sense or not. Yeah, and that just created so much love and warmth in our
Yes.
hearts. Because the reason why we would hold on to things or feel like we need everything, not just that one most important thing, is that we are under fear and threat or some kind of anxiety, right? And so
Yes.
when we are anxious, we hold on. That's a natural human response, right? And if you hold on and somebody's there, like this is garbage, you should let it go, then you get even more anxious. You hold on even tighter, right?
Yes. I mean, at one point, I didn't even want to throw out tissues. I didn't collect them, but I would be like, oh, it was an OCD thing where I think, oh my God, but what if I'm really throwing out my jewelry? So Randy helped me with that anxiety too. And he said, you have to keep doing it, and then your brain will stop saying really mean bullying things. So I would throw things out, and I used to, at the beginning, I used to check. I'd be like, oh my God, I threw something out. Let me check. And I wouldn't want to touch it, but I would eye it and maybe put something in it so I could. And I really rarely do I do that anymore. When I'm tired, it's more difficult for me.
Right.
And I might go, oh my God, and I go, calm down. You didn't. And even if I did, it won't kill me. That's the thing.
Right.
I have, when I was a child, I remember my father helping me to clean out my room. And I still remember things that I threw away that I wish I hadn't thrown out. And I was a child, but that's really how my brain works. It has to be, I have to be supported and loved and not treated like I'm crazy. It's the same thing if somebody had a broken arm and you said, come on, just use your damn arm. They go, I can't. Why not? It worked before. Yeah, but it's broken. Okay, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. You're going, but it's really broken. Something in my brain is not really working properly. I don't want to be like this. Trust me.
Right, right. Yeah, what you're saying here is so important, right? Not only people who don't have this condition have this like, I don't get it. Why can't you just throw away those bags? Or I don't get it. The more like since you know that's wrong, why can't you change?
Right.
Yeah, and this is not only coming from people who don't get it, or who don't have the condition, but this is also coming from a lot of people who are suffering with the condition
Yeah.
themselves, right?
Yes.
The inner critic voice of like, come on, you know better. Come on, you,
Right.
why can't you do this? So that's that like that bully voice in you, like
Yeah.
saying and judging yourself as
Yeah.
well.
A friend of mine once said, well, if a dog had an accident, you wouldn't kick the dog. And I like to think of myself at the beginning like I'm this little puppy. I don't want to kick me if I don't do it perfectly. I hate that word, but if I um if I don't throw something away that I need to throw away, or that feels like I should, another word I don't like, I'm not gonna kick myself.
Mm.
You know, like what was it? Oh, I was working with my assistant yesterday on deleting emails.
Mm.
And I don't even want to share how many she deleted. I will. 45,000 emails. Yeah. I just texted her, let this one go, let that one go, and then go back and delete all for example, Bloomingdale's. Oh my God, it was like my mother would just die if she knew I was deleting Bloomingdale's, because that was her go-to, right? So, and we had a joke where I'd go, Mom, there's a sale at Bloomie's, wake up. She'd be like, okay, I'm up. So I deleted, I unsubscribed from Bloomingdale's, and I deleted, let me correct that. Danella, my assistant, deleted all those emails. And God, I felt like I had the best shower in my life. I
Right,
still have ways to go,
right, right,
but it's so freeing.
right.
It's so freeing to not have to see every sale
Mm-hmm.
that's going on before I start my work.
Right, right. Marnie,
Mm.
I I I really want you to tell us dive into this freeing process a little bit more with us, because this is hard, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people struggling with this condition. So we hold on, like you said, when your mother first died at first, you were wanting to save her trash can, right?
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to save everything. We even make copies of one
Yeah.
thing, multiple copies of one thing. So
Yeah.
that energy, so wanting to hold on, wanting to make sure I have everything that I can possibly need now or in the future.
Mm-hmm.
How do you transform yourself from that to, man, this is freeing, to
Yeah.
not have this?
Well, I also work with somebody who's very special to me. Her name is Claire Baker.
Hmm.
She is in the UK. And the upside, the one silver lining in help my brain, I haven't slept enough. The one silver lining in the pandemic
Okay.
um, was that we can now work with people all around the world.
Right.
And I can also, as a teacher, work with people all around the world. So that's been incredible. Claire does have a 7-step program,
Hmm.
and it's a beautiful program. And I don't know how much I want to go into it because I don't know how much you want me to go into it, but she's somebody
We
who
have
is,
about 5 minutes.
okay, very, very special,
Mm-hmm.
who also been there, done that, and
Mm.
has created a program where you really go little by little by little, so that you don't ever say, okay, let's get the garbage can on Sunday and dump everything I own. That's toxic. It's not going to work. And you'll want everything back. I can promise you that.
Right, right, because you're not ready.
Not ready. And also, just like, and I'll say one thing about it, just like on the hoarding program,
Mm.
it's not helping to have
Mhm.
somebody come in and dump everything.
Mm.
That can create people becoming suicidal, actually.
Right.
Right. So that, and sadly, because of that show, I often say, yes, I suffer from a hoarding disorder, but I don't have dead cats. Seriously. And people, because the first thing I say, they're like, oh,
Mm.
you must have, diapers from your children. Just no,
Oh,
you know what I mean? I've never done that. Not like I'm saying that they're bad.
right.
It's that is extreme
It's a
hoarding.
shit.
Even on a radio show talking about it, and the person didn't believe me. They're like, oh, you don't suffer from hoarding because your plumbing works. I was like, it's always worked. It's always going to work. And that's, I think, the biggest misunderstanding, and why people don't want to come forward is because they believe that you have to be at a point where you don't have plumbing
Right.
to get help.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I
It,
don't want to, sorry, I don't want my daughter to have years of work going through my crap.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing this part as well. Yeah. Yeah. So it really sounds like the transformation from holding on to things to
Mm-hmm.
being able to appreciate the
Mm-hmm.
freedom of letting go. It kind of comes from incremental, little by little kind of work,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
consistency, and not only the little incremental
Mm-hmm.
physically letting go, but also
Mm-hmm.
the little and little by little self-acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
self-support, self-love in
Mm-hmm.
that process of letting go. And then so you are healing yourself from the inside out and outside
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The bottom line, this is not a quick fix.
No. Yeah. It's not.
And if this year my home looks so much more beautiful than last year, who cares if
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it belongs in a magazine? It
Mm-hmm.
will never look that way.
Right.
It may never look that way.
And
And
okay.
it doesn't need to.
Right, right. And I think that this also ties into what you're talking about there's a lot of stigma or stereotype
Mm-hmm.
of what hoarding or what hoarding disorder is and looks like. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, when we talk about the word hoarding, people have images, and those
Yeah.
images are from the most dramatic kind of
Right.
footages from the TV, from media. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not to say, well, that's worst case scenario. It's just that people have different presentations of
Mm-hmm.
this challenge. And so some people, yes, I believe some people may indeed have diapers or dead animals. Yes, that can happen. It's a
Mm-hmm.
different kind of presentation than other people. They People may walk in their home and see like, oh, you don't have hoarding issues because you
Right.
walk around in your house. But
Mm-hmm.
but so it's kind of like what we're talking about in the panel. It's like it's
Mhm.
not about the stuff. It's
Right.
about the emotional suffering from not being able to let things go and having to hold on, and to
Mhm.
the extent that you really cannot connect well with life, you cannot connect well with people, and
Mhm.
you're living in fear. So it's
Yes.
not about the stuff.
No, it's the stuff underneath the stuff,
Exactly, the
right?
invisible stuff.
Yes. And it really is healing yourself, or I should say for myself, it's about healing myself. I had to do a lot of inner work with
Mm.
Claire, with my therapist, to really find out, where is this coming from? When did I start using stuff to cover up
Right,
other?
right, right. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Marnie.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I could talk about it for years. I love
Me too.
the process. And I love, it's funny. I said to my husband last night,
Mhm.
if I had a magic wand and I could have never suffered from this
Hmm.
today, I would not have used that magic wand.
Oh my
Because, yeah, I have helped so many people and I have learned so much about myself
Hmm.
that it's been such a beautiful journey. And
Yes,
everybody has something,
yes,
everybody. So this is my journey.
yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. And I
Thank
love you. This is
Oh,
so great. You're
I
brilliant.
love you. You're so special. And I love that you talk about healing.
Oh,
It's so beautiful to me.
oh,
It's
thank
so important.
thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you for joining us on this conversation, Marnie. And
Of
hopefully
course.
we can talk again about different topics.
I would love it. I would love it anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care.